It is such a relief that we finally have a release date for Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. The journey to this game is almost over, but I don't think some of you understand just how long we have been waiting for this game, whether it's because you're a new Metroid fan, or maybe you're not even a Metroid fan at all, you just want to know why Metroid fans have just been so eager for this game to come out. Some of you might have said, why can't these fans just be patient? Well, the thing is, we have been for a very, 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 very long time. So I'm going to go over everything that happened during this extremely long wait for Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. I'm not even just going to go over when it was revealed in 2017. Yeah, 2017. I'm also going to talk about the wait before that reveal, that 10-year long wait, maybe 8-year if you count Metroid Other M, which I don't know if I would, but let's just start with that. Metroid Prime 3 Corruption was the last mainline Metroid Prime game released, and it came out on the Wii in August 2007. I really like this game a lot. It's not the strongest game in the Metroid Prime trilogy, but even still, the trilogy is just filled with goated games to begin with, and this is one of those games. We already knew this was going to be the end of the Metroid Prime trilogy, but there was still an echo of hope at the very end when we saw this cliffhanger when Samus flies away in her ship. We saw another ship following her, and this is presumed to be the same ship of Sylux, a rival bounty hunter from Metroid Prime Hunters. Literally, all we know about this guy is that he hates the Galactic Federation and he hates Samus. That's it. Which is why when people ask me if I need to play Metroid Prime Hunters before Metroid Prime 4, I just say no. There's literally not a cohesive plot in that game, and Sylux gets like no character development whatsoever. He's just one of these several bounty hunters that Samus fights throughout the campaign and multiplayer mode. So Metroid fans were still holding on hope that we would see another Metroid Prime game. I was one of those people, but I wasn't like on pins and needles waiting for that next announcement. Instead, we got Metroid Other M a few years later, not made by the Prime team at Retro Studios or producer Kensuke Tanabe. Instead, this was made by Yoshio Sakamoto, who was responsible for the mainline 2D games, and it came out and not a lot of people liked it. You know, it's a very polarizing game. You got people that love Other M, and you got people that hate Other M. I am in column B. I do not like Other M in the slightest, but regardless of how you feel about this controversial game, it still caused kind of a rift in the Metroid series, what I would consider to be the dark days of Metroid, the dark decade of Metroid, if I'm being totally honest, because we Metroid fans got almost nothing. And I say almost nothing because there was a time in 2015 when I personally was very excited at the concept of another Metroid Prime game. I was a big Nintendo fan back then, and I was dying for a return to the Metroid series, because when Nintendo was making all kinds of fun and cutesy games, I wanted them to get dark again, you know, and Metroid is pretty much their darkest franchise, I would say, their most adult franchise. I guess MEO is now that, but still. I was watching videos up the wazoo, mainly by my good friend McIntyre Productions. He seldom uploads now, but he's still around, and shout out to him. There was just a lot of rumors that Retro Studios was working on another Metroid Prime game for the Wii U after they just finished Tropical Freeze. I was so excited going into this E3 2015, and then we got Metroid Prime Federation Force, which is a far cry from what we wanted as Metroid fans. At this point, it had been 5 years since the last mainline Metroid game, and we wanted something mainline, be it a Prime game, be it a new 2D entry, or maybe they would take another crack at 3D. I'm not sure, but this is not what we wanted. A 4-player cooperative shooter on Nintendo 3DS, no less. It was just not what we wanted, and it came out the next year in 2016 to middling review scores and even worse sales, which is not something the Metroid franchise needed at the time. I still bought a copy to support Metroid, but I only played about 2 levels before giving up and saying this is not Metroid, this is not what I wanted. I wound up playing the game last year to completion, and I'm one of the few people that apparently does not like that game. I know a lot of people don't like it, but some are saying like, when you remove the Metroid from the equation, it's kind of a decent shooter. I thought it was just awful. Even like playing with other people, I just did not like it. It just controlled horribly. The missions were repetitive and dull, but I talk way more about that in my video. Check that out after I'm done talking about Metroid Prime 4. Although Federation Force did give us us hope into the future, as there was a post-credits scene showing some mysterious figure sneak into a Federation research facility and steal a Metroid hatchling. And this was confirmed to be Silex, just like he was there at the end of Metroid Prime 3, giving us more hope for Metroid Prime 4. That's where we go next into the journey. This is where the journey, like, officially begins at E3 2017, where Nintendo, during their Nintendo Spotlight, because for some reason they just didn't want to call them E3 Directs at this point, I just remember sitting there with Conrad of Commonwealth Realm and my buddy Alan sitting in the back. We're just recording our reactions watching this Nintendo Spotlight, and there was Blue Space Nebula, which made me think it was either Metroid or Star Fox. Alan, I know, was praying for Star Fox in the back, but I'm over here like Metroid, Metroid, Metroid. And there was Samus's S, the screw attack symbol with the number 4, and then the title reveal, Metroid Prime 4. I was bewildered by this. I really didn't think they were going to do yet another Metroid Prime game, although maybe I should have seen it coming, because the producer of the Prime trilogy, Kensuke Tanabe, said the year prior his ideas for the next Metroid Prime game, talking about Samus and Silex being rivals in it. He wanted to focus on that rivalry, maybe incorporate some time travel elements and such. This was while he was producing Metroid Prime Federation Force. It's so funny, he was just like, while I'm promoting a game you guys don't really want, let me talk about ideas I have for the game you actually want. And then the next year, Prime 4 was confirmed, and he was confirmed to be the producer in the same capacity he was in when he was working with Retro Studios on that original Prime trilogy. But Retro Studios were not the ones developing it. Oddly enough, there was no confirmation on who the studio would be that would be working on this game. I don't remember Nintendo's words exactly, but they said that another studio would be handling it, and that of course caused some concern, but maybe not that much of a concern, because to me I felt like as long as Kensuke Tanabe was the one overseeing the project, that there would be no chances of it failing. So, 2019 happened. Before I talk about that though, I forgot to mention that Metroid Samus Returns was also announced the same day Metroid Prime 4 got announced. So that was a lovely surprise. It's a remake of Metroid 2 Return of Samus for Nintendo 3DS. A lot of people were upset that it didn't come out on Switch, even though 90% of them had a 3DS to play it anyway, but a lot of them vowed to just wait for the inevitable Switch version, and they're still waiting. So good job, guys. You should have bought it when it was available, but it's still a great game. If you have the means to play it, you absolutely should. But let's go back to Metroid Prime 4. Cut to January 2019, a month after the Game Awards, where I was certain they'd show a trailer for Metroid Prime 4. I think there were a lot of rumors beforehand that Metroid Prime 4 was going to be at the Game Awards 2018, but alas, we got Joker in Smash, which is really cool, and Marvel Ultimate Alliance. I guess there's your Switch announcements. But then a month later, Nintendo posts development update for Metroid Prime 4, and when I tell you, like, I woke up, I saw Conrad message me saying, record your reaction to this now, and I said, Conrad, I'm not doing this. I'm clicking on this video right now. I was so scared. My heart was beating so fast the entire time. I was so scared that this game was just going to be completely canceled. And in a sense, it was, at least the version that they had from the original developer, which there were rumors that it was Bandai Namco Singapore. We still don't know for sure if that were the case, and we probably never will know, but that was the rumor. But what mattered was that Nintendo saw that the project was not meeting their expectations, and they decided to restart from scratch with Retro Studios at the helm. So yeah, that was good news. Retro Studios was back doing this game. But you know, I just couldn't help but think, especially just out of pure frustration from this news, why didn't you just give this to Retro from the start, Nintendo? Like, you could have saved us all the entire headache by just giving it to Retro Studios from the start. And we won't know for sure what happened. There were rumors that Retro pitched them like an idea for Prime 4 while the other studio was developing it, and then Nintendo scrapped that version of the project in favor of this one. People have speculated that Retro was working on something else before Nintendo came in and said, hey, stop doing that and work on Prime 4. But in the end, like, if that part's true, like, whatever Retro was doing, they're not doing now, so why couldn't they have just given the project to Retro in the first place? But in the end, this was still ultimately a great move to be transparent, and you know, in an industry where transparency is just not the name of the game, these big companies have trouble communicating with their fan bases, either just out of pure ignorance or pure arrogance. But here Nintendo just being just straight up transparent transparent with us, saying, hey, this project wasn't working, we're very sorry, but we're gonna make sure this game is good whenever it comes out. And I thought I would have to wait maybe 2.5 more years, which is just purely silly, especially now in hindsight, right? I thought video game development was still in like the 2.5 year range at that point, but now games just take way longer to make. Let's be honest. But yeah, I was not happy with this news. Like, even if I appreciated Nintendo's transparency, I was still like one of the few people who was just absolutely frustrated at Nintendo's handling of the original project, but ultimately they made a better decision by giving the game to Retro Studios. And then after the announcement of this delay, radio silence. Complete and utter radio silence for 6.5 years. We didn't know anything about this project for that long. Like, there was a header image changed by Retro Studios' Twitter banner in 2022, which made us think that an announcement was coming soon, and nothing happened still from that. The most bit of news that we Metroid fans have latched onto, and a lot of websites even like reported on this news, of just new hires for Retro Studios, brand new hires that were coming in from like big AAA studios like Rockstar, like Treyarch, like 343 Industries. Like, I remember one of the first hires was Kyle Heffley, I think that's his name. He was an artist on, I think he was like an armor like artist on Halo 5 Guardians. You got to think after he was hired, he saw that everyone was talking about him on Twitter, and he was like, why is everyone talking about me? I'm a game developer. Like, I'm not that famous. Well, what's going on? That's just how desperate we were for news about Metroid Prime 4 at this point. We were just beyond like desperate for something, right? We were so like excited for this game, and we were so crushed, albeit like we appreciated the transparency, but we were still crushed for a game that was announced 1.5 years ago at that point. But thank God that we still had new Metroid games within that span of time. Come October 2021, we got Metroid Dread. This was such a significant game for multiple reasons. One being that it was a continuation of the Metroid timeline, which stopped at Metroid Fusion in 2002. So we spent 19 years not knowing where the story would continue. And we had heard rumors at that point that Metroid Dread was a game that was happening. This was around 2005, I think. I don't know if Nintendo like ever officially announced this game. Like, I think maybe they published some information in like magazines for it, but this never got like a reveal trailer. There was like a hint of it in Metroid Prime 3, I guess, but you know, people tell me, hey, we waited 19 years for Metroid Dread, and it's just like, okay, but Dread was never officially announced until June 2021, so we didn't have to wait that long for Dread in hindsight. And you know, ever since Metroid Prime 4's delay, Nintendo has been very, very strict about their timeline of reveal to release for their games, which is great. Like, when a Nintendo game gets revealed, we only have to wait like 6 months on average for the game to come out. But like, Nintendo, could you have maybe learned that lesson with another franchise, and not my favorite franchise of all time? Could you have made that mistake with Zelda? Who are we kidding? Nintendo's always going to make that mistake with Zelda. They're going to announce the next 3D Zelda game, and then it's going to come out 3 to 4 years after that announcement. That's just how the world is going to work from now on. Going back to Dread, Metroid Dread, man, what a great game. It's my favorite 2D game of all time. It's a perfect evolution of the 2D Metroid gameplay, and even though I don't think it's going to have any connection to Metroid Prime 4, it was just great, fantastic to just get Metroid Prime 4 like off of my head for that year, and just get excited for a new 2D Metroid game, one that was going to continue the series, and another that is just like, it's like if Half-Life 3 ever gets announced. This is the Metroid equivalent of that. Dread was just a constant joke in the community, like, oh, maybe we'll get Metroid Dread in this next Nintendo Direct, and then it's real. It's a real game. It's just insane we live in this time where Metroid Dread is a real game. But of course, after Dread came out, and after people had, you know, had their time, had their fill with that game, it was time to focus maybe not on Metroid Prime 4, but the other Metroid Prime games, Metroid Prime 1, 2, and 3, because, well, why wouldn't you release those games on Switch before Metroid Prime 4? And then we eventually, after just months and months of rumors, we finally got Metroid Prime Remastered in February 2023. As a shadow shadow drop no less. This was a game that was announced and then released, and only for 40 bucks too. It was a consumer-friendly remaster, and it looked really good. This game has completely made the original Metroid Prime obsolete for me. Like, not only does it look better, it still maintains that same style, that same artistic direction of the original Metroid Prime game. You know that saying, this looked as good as I thought it looked in my head 20 years ago or something? That's the case for Metroid Prime Remastered. This is the best way to play this game, hands down. They made the controls more modern while still containing those old tank controls as an option. Just a great remaster, and it stinks it only sold about 1 million copies, I think. Buy Metroid Prime Remastered if you haven't already. Just do it right now. Go on the eShop. I think it's actually on sale as I'm recording this, so hopefully it's still on sale as this video goes up. It's amazing. As of right now, we still don't have Metroid Primes 2 and 3 remastered. The rumor is that those won't be like the big boy remasters as Metroid Prime 1 was, but as long as we get it like before Prime 4, I'll be happy. But you know, after Metroid Prime Remastered came out, I thought, cool, we're gonna get Metroid Prime 4 news very, 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 very soon. And then there was just continued silence from the rest of the year. Like, in hindsight, it was great we got Prime Remastered. That was such a cool way to tide us over, but I was still just like, where's the end game? Where's Prime 4, Nintendo? You're making me lose my mind. And then finally comes June 2024, 7 years after the game was originally announced. We finally get our first snippet of gameplay of Metroid Prime 4, now with the subtitle Beyond. You know, people talk crap about this trailer. I understand it. If I were the one in charge of making the trailer, I would have made it a little more epic and not just start with a text saying Cosmic Year 20X9. But in the moment, I just didn't care. We got Metroid Prime 4 gameplay, just over a minute of it, I believe. It was just straight up gameplay showing like the intro of the game where Samus is taking on space pirates at a Galactic Federation research facility, and then it ended with Sylux, thus confirming that Kensuke Tanabe's words from 2015 are probably going to be lived up here in this game. Sylux is here, there's probably going to be some time travel, especially with the black hole symbol behind the Metroid Prime 4 logo, and the fact that that artifact there looks like a black hole. Oh, I was just so happy to hear that Prime 4 was coming out finally, and it was still confirmed for the Nintendo Switch. At this point, the Switch 2 had not been a confirmed system. Like, there were rumors about it, sure. There were even rumors that Prime 4 was going to dual launch on the Switch 1 and Switch 2, just like Breath of the Wild did on Wii U and Switch. What an easy prediction to make. Of course that's going to happen. Like, why wouldn't it? That makes no sense if it doesn't happen, right? But at this point, the game was still a Nintendo Switch 1 game, and then the rest of the year was also radio silence, of course. But you know, at the end of this trailer, we got a release year of 2025, so I was just like, okay, let's just see what happens next year. I didn't expect to see it for the rest of the year. I knew they were going to wait until Switch 2 was revealed to talk more about it, and then sure enough, it was actually shown off again in a March 2025 Nintendo Direct before the Switch 2 Direct. What a strange marketing tactic. Like, we still saw more Switch 1 gameplay, showing the planet Vuros, showing the species the Lamorn, which is probably going to be like the Luminoth in Metroid Prime 2, and then Samus's psychic abilities. She's got that third Doctor Strange eye, and she can use those abilities to open doors. Who approved that line in that trailer? That was awful, but I guess memeable at least. And surely we were going to see more of this game in the Nintendo Switch 2 Nintendo Direct the following week, and we did. Maybe about 35-45 seconds of it. I'm sure it was more like a minute, but that's where they showed off the game running on Switch 2 very, very briefly. They showed off that it would run at 4K 60 FPS in quality mode and 1080p 120 FPS in performance mode, which is really, really cool. And they had a Nintendo Treehouse segment for the game showing off the entire intro, showing off the first boss and mouse controls. That was a feast. That was definitely a feast. People got to play it when they got to go to the Switch 2 experience and give us more reason to be excited for the game. But no release date. It wasn't even launching with the Switch 2 like we all thought it was going to. Not all of us thought it would. I know there's some of you are going to comment, actually, I didn't think this was going to launch on Switch 2. We get it, you're special. But that was like the common prediction or like the common wish. I think maybe it was even leaked too at some point, but it didn't happen. This game did not launch with the Switch 2. We would have to wait a few months after the Switch 2 launched to actually get a release date as of a couple of weeks ago, which is now December 4th, 2025. Yes, they're letting this game cook until the very end of the year, the last possible week they could release it, and we're here. the journey's just about over, guys. Like 70 something days to go until Metroid Prime 4 Beyond comes out. So my purpose of making this video was to just kind of reflect on the long journey that we've had to endure waiting for this game. It wasn't that bad, because we still got Metroid Dread, we still got Metroid Prime Remastered, and just a bunch of other great games, not Metroid games, but other games on the Nintendo Switch 1 that we got to play while we waited. But man, oh man, it was an excruciatingly long wait. It was still, even with those games set to like appetize us, at least for me, I was still like, Metroid Prime 4 is the end game. Metroid Prime 4 is the main course. Metroid Prime 4 is what I want to play, and I've been wanting to play since I was 22 years old, ever since it was announced. And here I am, 30 years old, the game is finally coming out. Thank God. There will never be a game, even if Metroid Prime 5 turns out to be a thing, there will never be another game I am this excited for. I spent the entirety of my 20s waiting for this game. I was doing other stuff. I was still doing other stuff. I wasn't just sitting there twiddling my thumbs waiting for something of Metroid Prime 4, but still, that game was on the back of my mind for so long. Not a single day went by where I didn't think about how excited I was for Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, and what a time we live in. The wait is going to be over, and I'm still just wondering how I'm going to feel once I finally beat this game and I make the content I want about this game. Like, what a long, extensive journey, but I know that it's just going to be worth it when the game finally launches on December the 4th. But I think that's all I want to talk about when it comes to the wait of Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. Let me know in the comments how you felt about this extremely long wait. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and press that notification bell, because I'm going to be making some more Metroid content up until the game comes out. And I'm also going to be working on other things too. I'm not just going to be talking about Metroid on this channel. I'm going to be talking about other games. That Silent Hill F looks really good. I want to play that and maybe make a review on it like I reviewed Silent Hill 2 last year. But in the end, thank you so much for watching my video, and I want to thank my beautiful FerrisWheel members right here for supporting me and my channel. If you want to become a member to get early access to some of my uploads, then be sure to hit that join button down below. But until next time, bye-bye.